let me, okay, thank you for joining. This is the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation simulation. We are simulating how a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine in Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem could make peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but not only between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but also with the neighbors of Israel and Palestine. So that it is clear, we are not advocating for the dismantling of the Israeli or the Palestinian government. We are advocating for the creation of a common government that would be based on secular democratic principles with separation of power between the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. A common government that would be equal to the Palestinians and to the Israelis, that will work side by side with the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. My name is Joseph Avasar. My email is josephavassar@gmail.com. And you can send me your comments after the simulation, and I'll be happy to respond. This is our website. Our website is in 3 languages: Arabic, Hebrew, and English. If you go to the English or the Arabic or the Hebrew, you could read the Constitution. We are proposing to be a third government, independent and separate from the Israeli and the Palestinian government, a government that will work to make peace and give prosperity and security to both the Palestinians and the Israelis on an equal basis. There would be a democratic, secular government with 3 branches. Like I said, the executive, which is the president and the vice president, the legislative, which would be the 300 parliament members, and the judicial, which will be judges, that would be Israelis and Palestinians together on an equal basis. This government, the Constitution explains what is the function of this government and how it will work simultaneously with the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. Today, we have AVRAHAM BURG as our guest speaker. Let me just move this a little bit. I'm getting a lot of AVRAHAM BURG was a speaker of the Israeli Knesset, chairman of the Jewish Agency, chairman of the World Zionist Organization, and an interim president of Israel. He is the author of many books about Israel and Zionism, including The Holocaust is Over, We Must Rise from Its Ashes. Mr. Berg uses his own family history. His parents were Holocaust survivors to advocate for peace with the Palestinians and Israel's enemies. He represents a completely different perspective, and from my perspective, a fresh new look in how the Israelis and the Jews should view the lessons from the Holocaust. Mr. Berg wrote many books, and I think the 2 most popular books are these: The Holocaust is Over, We Must Rise from Its Ashes, and in days to come, New Hope for Israel, all of them by Mr. Berg. We are inviting different people with different perspective. We are not limiting ourselves to one perspective, And the idea is to represent and to present to them our peace formula and to ask them to critique it. So in addition to Mr. Burg today, we're going to have Noam Chomsky on November 14. We're going to have James Zogby of the Arab American Institute on November 30th. We're going to have Knesset member Ofer Kassif on December 19th. Knesset member is of the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli parliament. We're going to have Richard Falk, professor of international law, on December 27th. Gadi Baltiansky, who was the prior press secretary for the Prime Minister Ehud Barak, on January 9. Professor Galia Golan on January 23rd. She's from I believe, the Hebrew University and the Herzliya University. And Professor Shibli Telhami on March 20th, 2022, next year. The estimated time for the simulation is 120 minutes. What we are doing is we will have segments. We will be voting on a constitution. We will be voting on a legislation. And after each segment, we will ask Mr. Burg to give us his opinions. So it will be approximately 5-7 minutes for each segment, and then a short conversation with Mr. Burg or giving his opinion, and then we'll go to the next one. And then we will have an audience question and answer with Mr. Burg at the end. Mr. Burg, is this format acceptable to you?
It must be acceptable since I didn't understand it, so it must be perfect.
Okay. You did not understand it?
Not a word. Rounds and votings, etc. Tell me what to do and I will try to deliver.
Okay, it's very, very simple. It's once you see it, it's like riding a bicycle. You know what to do.
I'm in Berlin now and I ride a scooter, but okay, let's see if it's adaptable.
Okay. So we have a short video that explains what the Common Government Confederation is about. It's 2.5 minutes, and it explains it pretty good. Let me play it.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So the objective of the simulation is to demonstrate how a common government could make peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. We're not having a historical review of who is to blame and who is at fault. We're not anti-Israel and not anti-Palestinian. We are pro-peace. Mr. BURG is not a representative of the IPC. He is speaking on his own behalf with his own opinion. He was invited to help us conduct a stress test to the IPC because he's been in government, he has some expertise. We are pro-peace. We have our own narrative, and we believe that when a common government will be created, it will have its own narrative. It's not going to have the Israeli narrative or the Palestinian narrative, but a common narrative for everyone, its own narrative. We expect to have a rigorous discussion today, but we are going to be very respectful of each other and our guest, Mr. BURG. So that it's clear, we are not excluding other formulas for peace. We think that our formula is the best, but we are not excluding others. We had disruptions in the past, but I don't think that we will have it again. It hasn't been coming up for a long time. We will ask Mr. BURG and you to judge the formula for peace based on 3 criteria. Could the IPC plan, the Israeli-Palestinian formula, attain peace? The second is the IPC plan implementable? And the third is there a downside for either the Israelis or the Palestinians? So I would ask that you remember these 3 criteria, Mr. BURG and all of you, when you judge the peace plan based on the simulation we are going to be demonstrating. We will be proposing a legislation and a constitution so that it's clear we are not the government. We are. It hasn't been set. This is our only proposals. These are not real laws, but we think that what we are showing you is the tip of the iceberg, that a common government could do a lot more than what we can show you in an hour and a half. We ask you to look at the big pictures and avoid technical arguments. Suspend reality, try to look at the big pictures. We're asking that you refrain from comments during the simulation, but we encourage you to ask questions. So what is the difference between a question and a comment? If I show you an airplane and you say, Joseph, I will never board an airplane because airplane cause pollution and they're dangerous, that's a comment. But if you say, how does this thing fly? That's a question. So I'm asking during the simulation, please restrict yourself to questions only and avoid comments until the end when we will have the Q&A at the end. Certain facts and assumptions in order to make this simulation work. These are facts. Let me just set my my pointer. Okay, so these are facts that I think nobody will argue about. These 2, that the Israeli Prime Minister represent Israelis only, and that the Palestinian leaders represent Palestinians only. We are asking you, however, to assume these as facts as well in order for the simulation to work. So you will have to assume that we completed an election online, and the election lasted 3 months, that we included 14 million people in this election. That would be the people in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza and Jerusalem. 14 million people. We also want you to assume that 5 million people voted. The 3 million Palestinian voted and 2 million Israeli voted. And you also asked to assume that the president received 1.5 million votes. And I, Joseph, I was elected as the president and I received 1.5 million votes. And that the vice president, a Palestinian lady, she received 1.3 million votes. And according to the Constitution, we both have constitutional duties but we will rotate in 2 years. I will become vice president and she will become president. I also want you to assume that 300 parliament members were elected. I will ask most of you to act as parliament member, but each parliament member represent one district of 47,000 people. In other words, parliament members only represent a district. They don't represent the entire nation of Israel or Palestine. They only represent the district. I represent the entire area because I was elected as president. Does anyone have any questions regarding those assumptions? Please speak now. Mr. Berg, do you have any questions regarding those assumptions?
Yes.
What
I
are your
use,
questions?
I use your metaphor of questions rather than versus comment, okay?
Sure.
I understand the destination, the arrival destination. My questions all during the evening will be, what is the departure point? And I have a feeling that from different departure points in the conflict, you might arrive to a different destinations, and this is something you do not conclude. You have an aim in front of your eyes, and you are striving there, but I'm not at all sure you will arrive there. A question mark, am I right?
I don't understand the question. I don't understand
I will tell you. You have a destiny which says, I want confederation because it resolves so many problems. Maybe not all of them, but many of them. But I will tell you that there are at least 3 different departure points. What's your departure point? That the conflict is religious? If so, it means that the sides to the religious conflict do not necessarily believe in containment and shared life. If it's a national point of view, it means that it first have to stop before confederation at an independent Palestinian state. Is this state still exist, or was it simply expired with a 2-state solution formula? And is it the departure point of liberties and freedoms and rights, which is the tiny minority in Palestine and a tiny minority in Israel that might lead to confederation, but I don't see your 5 million voters over it. So
Okay,
tell me, what is your departure point, and I will tell you where will you arrive for your vacation.
The question is that I had for you is, do you have any questions regarding those assumptions?
I question the methodology. I think the methodology will not lead you there. That's it. That's my opening comment.
Okay, but regarding those assumptions, are you not willing to accept those assumptions?
No. I mean, listen, I'm a scholar in residence. I'm not part of the process. I want confederation. I think I know how to get to parts of it. I don't think that your landing or your arrival destination will be arrived. That's all.
Okay,
Because you
but
begin with
for
the aim,
purposes-
the departure.
For the purpose of this simulation, are you willing to accept those assumptions?
It's not mine. Continue. I will comment.
Okay. So you are not willing or unwilling, but okay.
No, listen.
Does anyone else have any questions specifically about those assumptions that I just presented? That we had an election, that we had 14 million people, that the election was for the entire 14 million people, that 5 million people voted and 3 million Palestinian voted and 2 million Israelis voted, that we have a president, me, Joseph, elected as president, and 300 parliament members were elected. And each member represent 47,000 people. Does anyone have any questions regarding those assumptions? Okay. Is there anyone?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello, Dr.
Avram, how
Barda.
are
Yes.
you?
Yes,
Yeah.
good.
I just want to clarify about, the 14 million that here what Avram asked about, where is the 2-state solution and does it affect it? We go here not from, that solution because we think that maybe there is another solution, and we are
Warda,
clarifying the way.
could you please ask a question, not a comment? Question.
No, it's a comment, so I don't have a
Okay,
question.
so yeah, wait for the end for the comments. Just a question.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who is not willing to accept those assumptions? Okay. I don't hear anybody. So, so I'm going to be asking now for the simulation, I'm going to be asking for volunteers. I need someone to volunteer to act as the Prime Minister of Israel. Do I have volunteer for Prime Minister of Israel?
Joseph, this is Amnon. I'll volunteer.
Okay. Okay, now I need a volunteer for the Palestinian Authority president. Do I have a volunteer for Palestinian Authority?
Okay, I will get it.
Okay, word. I need a volunteer for Hamas leader. Do I have a volunteer for Hamas? Do I have a volunteer for Hamas leader?
Okay, I'll do it. Libby.
Okay. I need a volunteer for US president.
I'll do that, I guess.
Okay. You have to be more decisive for to be US president. I need a volunteer for German chancellor. Do I have a volunteer to act as German chancellor?
I can be it.
Who's that? I didn't see.
Giacomo.
Okay. Terrific. Okay. The rest of you are going to be asked to be representative of your district. You are either Palestinian or Israeli. You need to decide whether you are Israeli or Palestinian. Mr. BURG, you can also participate and choose, because we had the election and we are assuming there was an election. We're asking people to participate as parliament members. So you'll have to decide, are you Israeli or Palestinian? You'll have to decide, are you Israeli from Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, or Palestinian from Gaza or Jerusalem? Remember, your district may be exclusively Israeli or Palestinian, exclusively Palestinian, or it could be a mixed district. You'll have to decide in your own head whether you are an Israeli in an exclusive district or Palestinian in an exclusive district or a mixed district. So now that you have decided, let's do an experiment on the votes and we'll see how many we have. So let's have the Palestinian parliament members vote first, just so that we exercise the voting, that we experiment on the voting. So I need the Palestinian, those of you who decide to be Palestinian parliament members. Okay, we need more okay. Okay. So up to now we have 11 or 12 Palestinian parliament members. And let's have the Israeli parliament members vote. Those of you who decide, please vote, Israeli parliament members. If you decide to be Israeli. We need more Israelis. Up to now I have, we have 3. We need more Israelis. If we can have more coming up later. Okay, can you, oh, we have 4. Okay. So we have 12 Palestinian and 5 Israelis. Okay. share the results. Okay. So let's stop the sharing. And let's go to our first order of business. And that's a constitution. So remember, we are assuming that we had an election, the 300 parliament members were elected, and we had a president and vice president, and now we need to ratify the Constitution. So here is the Constitution. We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. This means that constitutionally, we are prohibited from trying to supplant or supersede any agreements between the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. They can agree to whatever they want. We have no constitutional right. Our Constitution prohibits us from superseding or disagreeing with those agreements. They can agree to whatever they want. We recognize the need to work with Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislature and the government of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to sovereignty of those nations. So that's important. We basically say that whatever legislation we pass that affects their sovereignty, we are giving the Israeli and the Palestinian government a veto power over them. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having separate judicial branch relating to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality. Does anyone have any questions regarding this Constitution? Questions?
Yes, Joseph, I have a question. This is Amnon. I represent the Israeli Prime Minister.
Yes, sir.
I have a question to Mr. Burg. First of all, Avraham, Boker Tov or Erev Tov Lecha.
Wait. The question now is regarding the Constitution.
Yes, only the Constitution.
Okay, could you ask a question about the Constitution?
Yes, my question is to Mr. Burg, and my question is, why not have the government of Israel pass the same laws as the IPC would? What is your opinion?
I'm sorry, that's not a question about the Constitution.
Okay.
That's a question about the Israeli government.
Okay.
Can you ask a question about the Constitution?
I'll defer it to later. No, go ahead.
Okay, does anyone have any question regarding the Constitution?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the advantage of the IPC compared to instead having just one state that is secular and makes laws for the whole land? Why do we need an IPC and all this?
Well, the reason I would agree that one state is the best solution, one secular government is the best solution. The problem is that we have three governments, the Israeli government and the Palestinian, two governments, and it is impossible, in my opinion, or to dismantle those governments, and they exist. So you deal with reality, and the reality is that those governments exist, and that's why you create a common government that will work in competition with the Israeli and the Palestinian governments for the purpose of making peace. Any other question?
Yeah, I have a question. What would give this legitimacy then? Based on what
Oh,
you,
the votes that we got 5 million votes. So it's the legitimacy is the election, and the people gave us the legitimacy just like any democratic government. I see people raising their hands, but I don't see who you are because my screen is blocked. So can you just ask the question? Does anyone have any question?
Stephen, you're muted.
Yes, Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes.
Right?
Can you hear me?
Is that Ishmael? I saw Ishmael asking the question.
Yes, I'm Ishmael Amin from Malawi. I'm representing the legislative Palestinians.
What is your question?
Yeah, can you hear me, Mr. President?
Yes.
My question is, I represent as a legislature of Palestinian side. Palestinians, many of them, they are Muslims. How are we going to have a secular government? Thank you.
Okay, this is not a Palestinian government, and this is not an Israeli government. This is a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine. I agree with you that religion is very, very central in the Middle East, but this is a common government for both the Israelis and the Palestinian people together. And that's why it makes it much easier to create a secular government, because you want to have a government that makes peace. And the only way you could do it is by having a secular democracy. So you don't want it to be Jewish or Muslim, but a common government, a secular government for everyone. Any other questions?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, is that Nicholas Alice? Yes.
Yeah. I have a question as to the sixth down from the top. The idea that the Israeli and Palestinian governments can veto legislation relating to the sovereignty of those nations. I'm not sure that there's an answer to my question. I know what you're getting at, and that's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that. My question is, how do you avoid the problem of interpretation such that, for example, the Israeli government or the Palestinian government could decide that almost anything relates to the sovereignty of those nations? Let's say they wanted to build a airport, the IPC, and one of the governments could say, well, that imposes on our sovereignty. And so I just raise a question as to whether that is the best wording. Perhaps it's something to think about a little bit long term.
Well, the IPC decides in its legislation what violates the sovereignty of Israel or the Palestinian. It is part of the legislation. Then it would be handed over to the Israeli and the Palestinian government to veto it. And then they can come up with a legitimate excuse or a make-up excuse, but they'll have to pay for whatever they say. They will have to justify, they will have to get legitimacy from their own people.
Who decides what is legitimate? Does the IPC only have the right to determine what is legitimate? That doesn't seem right to me.
No, it's not the IPC deciding. The IPC deciding on the legislation. And
yes,
then
but you said it puts in the legislation its determination as to whether it is, relating to the sovereignty. And I'm saying, what is the answer to the question as to whether the government of Israel and Palestine doesn't agree with that determination that it does not relate to the sovereignty?
Then they can veto it. They can veto it. And it will be up to the public to decide whether the veto is in good faith or bad faith.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to pursue the argument. It's a potential problem, I think.
Okay, we'll see how it works. Any other question?
I have
Okay.
a question.
Yes,
I am Stephen Simon.
yes, hi, Stephen.
Hi. This is about the first point. We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights. This will be denied by Jewish supremacists. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Well, that's my
I don't know.
question.
We are a common government. And we elected 300 parliament members, and now we are here to ratify the Constitution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's take a vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote on this Constitution. Okay, let's end the polling and publish the results. 12 out of 12 Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of the Constitution. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Are you going to, Israeli parliament member, please vote. Are you going to ratify this Constitution? Okay, let's end the polling. 75% of the Israeli parliament member, one parliament member voted no. So in the real life, he would be either have to change his mind or he will have to be impeached because he ran on the acceptance of this Constitution. He cannot run and say that he's willing to accept the Constitution and then later on change his mind. But we're not going to get into an argument about that right now. The Constitution passed both the Palestinian and the Israeli parliament. So congratulations. We have the first Constitution in the history of humanity that includes the Israelis and the Palestinians. So this is a momentous occasion in the history of humanity. Let's go to then ask questions of Mr. BURG. And Mr. BURG, I want you to assume that 5 million people voted, that the 300 parliament members ratified the Constitution. And if that, in fact, did happen, Mr. BURG, could this become the framework for peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians? And the next question is, would the Israeli-Palestinian government have the legitimacy to oppose this framework?
I find it very difficult to participate in this exercise. I'm sorry, I feel that I'm not the right guest or not the right expert for you. I think it's a very, very abstract, in a compliment, I would say, naive way to approach the problems. It has nothing to do with legitimacy, nothing to do with politics. Both governments will ignore it. Israel does not have a constitution of its own because of its own internal problems. So it will adopt a constitution with somebody else. Come on, Palestinians do not have a majlis, do not have a parliament for so long. And by creating whatever it is, if it's a two states or a state which is partially a member of a confederation, which is founded on the current Palestinian Authority mechanism, which is a non-democratic authority, is that really anybody to give legitimacy to any constitution? I simply don't understand the foundation of the question and the foundation of the process. And this is like to say,
but so the question is very clear. If 5 million people voted and 300 parliament members were elected.
Completely, come on, you have the state of Israel and the state of Palestine and the state of Gaza, and you have the state of IPC. So we have a 4-state solution. What are you talking about?
This is a government. It's not a state.
State in the region.
It's a government we just demonstrated to you how this government could be elected.
It is cannot. It's not a demonstration. It's a virtual political non-reality.
I know, but could you, other than just generally attacking it,
I don't
is it
attack.
possible for you to answer this question?
No,
If-
I refuse to participate in a theoretical, non-existing exercise. Intellectually, it cannot stand. It has no foundations, no legs.
Okay,
How can I participate in something which I think is wrong? In my opinion, this is my opinion.
okay, what is wrong about it? I'm trying to understand, what is wrong about this? I just don't understand. You're saying very general thing, but you don't need, you need to be a little bit specific.
Listen, you wanted questions only. You want me, I tell you, what is the nature of the conflict? Is it national? Is it religious? Is it civil rights? A. B. Whatever 2 states or 3 states participate in it, Israel, Palestine, and Gaza, or Palestine, West Bank, and Palestine, Gaza. What do they have to relinquish for either whatever they have, which is absolute rights from the Israeli side, or absolute discrimination from the Palestinian side? What do they have to relinquish in order to enable the suprastructure, the Confederation, to run as a government for both of them? So you did not yet define the basic things. What is what conflict do you want to solve? The religious, the national, or the civil one? You did not yet define what are the boundaries of the sub-states, Israel, Palestine, Gaza, and what do they have to relinquish in order to make the suprastructure function. Without this, you are dealing with structures. The problem in the Middle East is not formulating a new structure, is understanding the deep psychopolitics of the conflict. And you can go for any structure you want, but you will be a constructor, but you won't solve the problem.
Okay, well, what we are proposing is a common secular government with 300 parliament members based on equality for the Israelis and the Palestinians. And the borders of this would be Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem.
So I cannot speak for the Palestinian side. What do I know? In
I'm sorry?
Israel, only 20% people who define themselves as secular among the Jews. I don't know among the Israeli Palestinians, it's maybe even less. So 80% of the Israeli Jews do not define themselves as secular, and you want them to have a secular state. Okay, fine. In this Israel, there are no equality for the following. No equality for the Israeli Palestinians within Israel, no equality for the non-Orthodox Jews, and non-equality for the non-Jewish Israeli citizens from Russian origin and partially for those from Ethiopian origins. So this state that does not have a built-in equality, and regardless of Palestine, which has its own similar mirror problems, you wanted to accept a secular egalitarian structure in the time in which its DNA opposes it? It doesn't work.
Yeah, the answer is yes. We want to create a secular government for the people of Israel and Palestine, regardless of how Israel or the Palestinians treat their people. We agree that those governments failed, and that's why we are proposing a common government based on fairness, based on secular principle with separation of power and equality.
Listen, Joseph, I'll tell you very honestly, I don't think I have to continue to participate in this. I mean, I think that what you're doing is a futile exercise, and I don't want to.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Berg?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, I live in the freedom of the United States, but my ability to participate in my government is not predicated on whether or not I'm religious or what religion I may happen to have. So the people of Israel and Palestine, as you said yourself, 20% or so are secular, and I would think that a percentage at least of the people who are religious would like to find a peaceful solution with each other. So they don't have the means to do so really at present when their governments are held captive to the extremists who can always sabotage any particular move toward peace.
Whoever has the dog barking, can you mute yourself?
I think it's Stephen Simon and he went to quiet the dog, I assume.
Okay. Okay. Well, basically, do you think it's impossible that in the Middle East that there be a framework for people to work together on a secular basis? Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to answer. I mean, as much as I write a lot about it and do some research and study about other potential partnerships in the Middle East, I would like to answer now at this evening about the Israeli society only, okay? Because you have people here like Jim Zogby and others who are experts on the rest of the region, that humbling me even to open my mouth in their presence. Having said that, I will say that in the United States of America, you have from day one a constitution with a wall of separation between church and state. In Israel, at least in the Jewish Israel, the model of church and state was never decided. Is it the Christian one that you find in Matthias, in Matthias, which says, give Caesar what's Caesar's and give God what's God? And that's the cornerstone of the separation of church and state in the Western Hemisphere? Or is it the Muslim issue that Muhammad was both a founder of the nation and a prophet? Both the founder of religion and a political leader, and therefore there is a fusion and merger between church and state. Israel is having both models, both Christian and Muslim at the same time. So to say whatever I know in America, United States of America, is applicable to Israel is wrong, because the foundations are different. We are the Jewish part of it, the majority of it, not me personally, believe that a substantial part of the Israeli being, the essence of it, is a religious and God-given. We are chosen people living in a promised land by God.
Let me ask you, Mr. Berg,
Okay.
based on those assumptions, what part of those assumptions, in your opinion, is unrealistic, cannot happen? That we have an online election, in your opinion, that's unrealistic?
I think it's unrealistic to have a fourth political entity.
Well, that's really, with all due respect, that's not my question. My question is it unrealistic to hold an election online for the 14 million people?
The answer is definitely yes. And I'm not really, you know yourself, I'm not interested to continue this, I would say, severe attitude of yours. I do not believe in your process and I would like to withdraw. I think that this process.
Okay, I apologize.
I have a question, if I may. I want to say in the beginning that I appreciate and congratulate Mr. Avasar for inviting you to be here and these others who do not necessarily agree with it. I like that. I like to hear opposing views. I like to hear what the truth is. That's all I'm interested in, not pursuing anybody's particular dream. Although I've always supported Joseph for many years and actually went to Israel with him and learned a lot, but I'm still pretty ignorant. So my question is, I know you're somewhat impatient with the whole thing because you don't agree with it. Okay, that's off the table as far as I am concerned, but I'm still extremely interested in what a knowledgeable, intelligent, experienced person like you thinks is a solution. And I understand that you don't want to speak for Palestinians, you don't want to speak to the United, I understand all that, but gosh, you've thought a lot about it and I don't know what you think. Could you explain for a few minutes?
Yes, but it's not a question.
I know it's not a question, but this has turned into more of a, talk, and I don't want to see you disappear without knowing a little bit about what you think, if that's permissible with Mr. Avasar.
And that's fine. I mean, this thing is breaking apart, but that's fine.
I'll try to be very brief and I'll let you continue without breaking it apart. I mean, you have your own mission, you have your own movement, go for it. Who am I to demolish it? But having said that, I will say people like myself who 40 years ago, 50, 40, 30 years ago, invested a lot of political energy in order to persuade the Israelis and later the Palestinians, our counterpartners, did the same in Palestine, that the two-state solution is the solution. And we paid dear prices for it at the time. People do not remember it because today it's a kind of a common wisdom that yes, two-state solution, even some right-wingers mention it every now and then. But the two-state solution had an expiration date. It is not valid anymore. The argument today is not what kind of how low, is not an argument, is it a two-state solution or one-state solution? I stopped counting states. I count rights, and I believe that there are two, that the argument today within Israel, but it's not my role to talk about Palestine now, that it's an argument within Israel, what kind of a one-state solution will it be? Will it be a one-state solution like today with one government and two regimes, one full of discriminations to the Palestinians and one full of privileges for the Jews? Or will it be one-state solution in which between the Jordan and the Mediterranean, every individual has the right for the same rights, and from this you built the rest of the structure. So the struggle today is that the same energy we had to invest 30 years ago in order to introduce the two-state solution, now we have to invest in the same energy to unintroduce it, to undo it, because it is not there anymore. It's an obstacle on the road, and people speak about it, but it's impossible to implement. Having said that, the basic foundation of this entire thing is actually, there are two. Will the Jewish majority within Israel be ready at a certain point, regardless what are the circumstances that will lead it towards it, to relinquish some of its privileges, absolute, total, hegemonious privileges between the Jordan and Mediterranean, the monopoly over space and air and politics, rights and resources and definitions and powers? This is the question on their side. The question on the Palestinian side is if and when there will be a political entity, be it the current Palestinian Authority, which is, from my point of view, as much as most of its leaders are very, very close personal friends of mine, it is nothing but a subcontractor for the Israeli occupation. So will it be the Palestinian Authority? Will it be an independent Palestinian state? Will it be a political entity under the roof of Confederation? Whatever will it be? Will it be a democracy or will it be a non-democratic entity? As for now, Palestine in Gaza and Palestine in Ramallah is a non-democratic entity, regardless of the Israeli occupation. Am I interested to contribute and to help to create another nation state which is non-democratic? My answer is no, I'm not interested. And therefore, when you want to begin a political process, forget about intellectual process, but this I do in my books, this I do in my writing, this I do in my lectures, but not in my political intervention. When you want to build a political structure, you have actually two ways. One is to push the envelope, to say this is what we have today, and let's push it and push it and push it, see how much can we push it. And the other one is John Kennedy. Let's put a man on the moon, a person on the moon, and then reverse engineering from this long-term vision till reality. And between the man coming back from moon and the pushing the envelope, the meeting point is the place in which you will have renovation and innovation. As for now, nobody pushes the envelope from within, and nobody put a man on the moon as a vision. Now, Confederation is a structure. It's not an idea. Structures are not the problem. Because you can say, listen, it's much easier. Believe me, it will come faster than you imagine. Let's persuade the Palestinian Authority to give back the keys and ask one person, one vote. And we want to vote for the Knesset, which is actually what we talk here. It will be much faster than all of these sophistications and suprastructures, etc., etc. It will happen overnight.
All right. Can we go on, Mr. Berg?
Yeah, but I would like to withdraw. So I really thank you all and wish you a lot of success, but I don't feel it's my my realm.
Well, thank you for participating to the extent that you
Okay.
have.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, so let's go to the next issue, and that's the declaration of intent to grant the veto power. The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas. Does anyone have any question regarding this declaration of intent to grant the veto power? Hearing no question, can we take a poll and have the Palestinian parliament members, could you vote? Do you support the declaration of intent to grant the veto power? Okay, can it publish the vote? 92% of the Palestinian parliament members voted yes. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members and ask you to vote on this granting a veto power. Okay, let's publish the vote. 3 out of 3, 100% Israeli voted in favor. So the person who asked, I believe it was Nick, about here we don't give the Israeli or the Palestinian a veto power because it does not affect their sovereignty. But let's go to legislation that we do think affect their sovereignty, and we do give them a veto power, and that's let's do something we haven't done in a long time, and that's a common passport. So we are the common government. We are proposing a common passport for Israeli and Palestinian citizens who reside in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. It would not replace the current Israeli passport or Palestinian passport, but it is a common passport for both. Does anyone have, and the common government will negotiate acceptability of this passport by countries that are not accepting either Israeli or Palestinian passport. Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation? Okay, so let's take a vote. Is Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Okay, let's publish the result. Let's stop sharing. Let's have the Israeli parliament members vote. Let's publish the results. So 100% of the Israeli parliament members voted yes. And let's stop sharing and let's go to the Israeli Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I will not.
Let's go to the Hamas leader. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I will not.
Let's go to the Palestinian Authority. Are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I agree with it.
All right. So let's go to the President of the United States. Mr. President, are you going to accept, will you be willing to accept this passport? Mr. President.
Yeah, okay, I had to unmute myself. Given the proper security concerns that are worked out between the countries, yes, I would accept it.
And what about the Germany? Will you be willing to accept that passport?
Well, the issue is here is this a proper identification document? Because I'm concerned that I know that a passport issued by Israel is has been vetted. The person who got this passport has been certified in a sense by the state of Israel. How much do I rely on the IPC as certifying and guaranteeing that a certain person gets this passport? How easy will it be to forge for potential terrorists? So I have qualified position here. I would like to accept it. I think it's a beautiful gesture. On the other hand, I'm a bit concerned if I am letting in people into the EU who might not be properly identified. If this document is not solid in terms of checking the identity of the people in question. So I would like to see more support and commitment from Israel and the Palestinian authorities, showing that they are going to help this passport become a solid, serious document.
What we are doing is we are actually, when we intend to issue a passport, it will be by Israelis and Palestinians, and we will work together with Israel and Palestine, because the same people will have to show us their own passport or their own identity. So I can assure you it would be very, very valid identity. Okay, so now, so we have this common passport passed, and let's go to police force. Equal number of Israelis and Palestinians in each level, different and distinct uniforms. So this would be a police force together for the Israelis and the Palestinian people under the Confederation, under the common government. Different and distinct uniform, independent of Israeli and Palestinian security forces. So it's independent and separate of those, in cooperation with the separate and Israeli-Palestinian authorities, address sensitive religious, cultural, and language requirements, facilitate the operation of the joint economic zones, investigate corruption by administration who refuse to teach tolerance, investigate allegations of intolerance and racist hate crimes against Israelis and Palestinians, assist in managing checkpoints, guard the parliament building and threats against members of the Confederation, facilitate access and safety of religious facilities. Does anyone have any question regarding this common police force?
Yes, Joseph, I do. It's Amnon, the acting Israeli prime minister. As far as the jurisdiction of the various police forces, the IPC police force, where does it have an authority? What areas? For instance, there is a crime scene, and in a common area, you're going to have the Palestinian police force, Israeli police forces, and IPC police force all merging to this crime scene. That's, you know, who's going to have the control, the authority, the jurisdiction over that? Do you see any clashes between all the forces?
Yeah, there will be overlapping, and there will be contradictory jurisdictions. Yes, but we will work it out in legislation. Think about it, like you have the FBI that has jurisdiction within the jurisdiction of a state in 50 states. So it would be similar to that. And it will also be similar to the police force in the Vatican. They have their own area. So for instance, if we have a common joint economic zone, then there will be a police force in that, will have exclusive jurisdiction in that area. But it could be offices throughout Israel and Palestine that will have Israeli-Palestinian Confederation police forces. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, so let's take a vote on that. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members vote first. Okay, let's end the polling. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted yes. Let's stop sharing and have the Israeli parliament members vote. And let's stop sharing. We have a dwindling down of the Israel. So 100% voted yes, 2 out of 2. And let's have the Israeli prime minister. Are you going to vote for that? Are you going to veto this? I'm sorry.
No, I will not veto that.
Hamas leader, are you going to veto this?
Did you hear me? No, I'm not.
Okay, and what about the PA leader?
It's okay.
Okay, so I would like to go to one legislation that I think affects what Mr. Berg spoke about, and that is declaration of peace. So is Nasir here? Okay, so this is, Mr. Berg spoke about the overlayer of religion. And this is a declaration of peace that we, the Confederation, are proposing. Our goal is to be a shining example for peace and tolerance. We believe in the respect of all people, regardless of religion or gender. We are committed to protect all people of all religions and to value the sanctity of life. All people are equal. All religions are equal. The practice of religion is voluntary and shall not be imposed. The land belongs to no religion, and no war shall be imposed on the count of religion. We encourage all government of the world to adopt this resolution. So this is our resolution, our declaration. Does anyone have any question regarding it?
Yeah, no, hold on.
Dora.
Yeah, hi. Okay, hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Yeah, I have one question. Is that particular declaration might seems like it's going to be demolish the Israeli government? Like, how could it bring peace?
Well, it will help bring peace by making it clear that we are not supporting a war based on religion, that we understand we are being tolerant towards each other and towards each other's religion. So we are not saying this land belongs to one religion over another. We are saying that this land belongs to no religion. There is the land belongs to the world. It's part of the world, and we are fortunate to live on it. So it's a statement of tolerance.
Like Abrahamic, Dora.
Like us, we are making the declaration. Okay, so I see no questions. Let's hear from the Palestinian parliament members. Are you, please vote, Palestinian parliament members. Okay, let's publish the result. And 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of it. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Okay, let's publish the results. And stop sharing. Okay, so it's been more than an hour. I would like to have a full conversation. Obviously, we had an event here that we never had before, where the speaker walked out of it, walked out. And I think that it's a momentous event, and if anyone wants to share his feeling about that, why do you think he walked out? Do you think it's okay, Zohar?
Hi there. First of all, thank you very much for letting me participate. This is my first time as part of this exercise. I think it's a great thing what you're doing. Anything that facilitates any kind of discussion or challenging of ideas is more than welcome. I think we should have more of that. I'm an Israeli, born and raised. I've been living abroad for the past 15 years now. I'm an economist working for the World Bank, and for the past 10 or 15 years or so, I completely ignored what is happening at home. I just assume it's a giant mess and there's no way to resolve it. It's probably going to end badly. Recently, I've kind of understood that I have a role to play and some responsibility as an Israeli citizen that is somewhat informed and managed to experience different things that allowed me to expand my perspective a bit more. So I think that Mr. Berg's challenge was imagining anything else but current reality and the sentiment in Israel. So our population has shifted more to the right. If you listen to many of the critics of Israeli politics, they would say that it goes extreme right, very right, right, and wannabe center, not even close to left. Whatever it is, still within the spectrum of imagining a Zionist country that has some kind of higher privileges for Jewish people over other ones, is not one that is aspiring for an inclusive secular country. And while you live in that, it's very hard to imagine something else. I've been to Israel recently. I spent the last month there in September. And to some extent,
We don't hear you.
Oops.
He froze. Maybe he'll come back.
Zohar, can you hear us?
No, I think he is frozen.
I think he said something very important, that it's hard to imagine something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Excuse me, Joseph. While we're waiting for Zohar to come back, can I say something to you?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I'm so sorry. Joseph, your meeting was, my email said at 5 p.m. London time, that's 6 p.m. Central European time. So I log on at 6 p.m. Central European time and find that you've been talking for 1 hour, Joseph, because we changed time on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I find the last person that spoke was very, very interesting, and I certainly don't want to interrupt what he was saying. And I'm so sorry I missed Mr. Berg. And if there was a little mistake, that's no problem, Joseph. It's just that I'm sorry I missed the beginning. No problem.
Okay, let me just
too,
tell you what.
by the way.
Let me just tell you what happened. Mr. Berg walked out of the meeting. He refused to participate and to go along with the assumptions. I think I'm representing this accurately. He did not want to go along with the assumptions, and
Why? Why?
I think he felt that this is naive, theoretical BS.
Zohar is back with us.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'll mute. Thank you, Joseph.
sorry, apparently my laptop's battery died. Sorry about that. I'm on my phone now. So I wanted to say that I visited Israel in the month of September for the first time in 2 years. Spent most of my time in Tel Aviv, where my friends live. It's different, I think, than what it was when I used to frequent Israel more. I used to go to visit once or twice a year before COVID. It's quite something, I have to say. I think where Mr. Berg was coming from, which I have to say that I have immense respect for his life's work, and particularly what he's been doing the last few years, criticizing the nation-state law and being within Hadash, the Israeli-Palestinian Party. The sentiment in Israel and the way people think about the conflict or the situation is very, very far away from what we're imagining to be a path towards the kind of solution that we're imagining. Now, that is not to say that I don't think that this should be the ultimate goal, and it's a great thing that we have this end goal in mind, and we, as I said, we first put them on demand and re-engineer or de-engineer from that. I think it's a great exercise. But Mr. Boer might be living this at first hand, and he cannot imagine anything than what he's seeing right now.
So I have a question. First, what country do you live in right now? And secondly, how is it now different, what you observed in Israel, different than what you saw 2 years ago? Are you with us, Zohar?
You here?
Okay. Let me give you the order. It's going to be Warda, Charles, Shiraz, Dora, and Libby.
Bye.
Can I get a response from Zohar to my questions?
Sure.
Hear me well?
What are these morons getting up for? Just to hear themselves talk? They want the 15 minutes of fame right here.
I'm sorry, I'm standing next to my router now. My internet will be better. So you're asking whether I think that it has changed in the past year?
And also, what country do you live in, Zohar?
Right. I'm now in the Netherlands. I'm in Amsterdam.
Okay.
What is different? So my friends in Israel are pretty much the same, but I go to visit my my family. I have older sisters and they have kids that are 20 years old and 19 years old, 18 years old. We sat for Shabbat dinner and a little bit of politics came out, as it normally does around the table. And the kind of rhetoric that I've heard is, I've never heard anything like that. I have to say, specifically not from members of my family about Israel being the best.
What, fucking moron?
Sorry?
Go ahead, Zohar, ignore that, go ahead.
Okay, it's just really Israel being the best, and we have to protect the land of the Israeli people. And then there was some talk about what happened in May, the violence on the streets during the attacks, and people talking about how the Palestinians are, on one day they are friends, and after that they start attacking us. We have to protect ourselves, and it's just the kind of, I've never heard this kind of rhetoric before, and it's just it became a bit more. I don't know what the words.
More
just
right wing, more right wing,
it's
entrenched
more
right
nationalistic. Let's put it this way, more
nationalist.
tribal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tribal.
that's which is weird because I've seen more integration. I've seen more Palestinians Israeli in the streets and working in different service jobs in Israel and in cafes, and it looked kind of normal in Tel Aviv, but I think the situation is quite different outside of Tel Aviv. And when I went to see my family, which lives a bit outside of Tel Aviv, it felt different.
Warda, why do you think Mr. Berg has such a strong reaction to what we are proposing?
I think when I started to talk to him and clarifying with him, because I felt his attitude towards that from the beginning. I think he stopped in some place without clarifying what is our program and what is we are talking about. And because of that, I want, but
we stopped you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think really he must be he has to be learned the program from the beginning, and think that it is a situation that we are suggested to solve all the problems, even the problems that Zohar now is speaking about, because in this solution, maybe it's not 300 parliament members, maybe it can be 30, 50, yeah, but every member he represent an area with its definitions, with its if it's secular or not secular, if it's Palestinian and not Palestinian, if it's mixed cities. Even in my Facebook, in my computer, to understand, I started to to draw it, to also to talk to some people about it, how we can imagine the country in the future, how it will be, because as you said, and as you even Avram speak about, that the two countries solution, it's not it's not it will not be the solution. It nor the Israeli, nor the even the right wing, not the Palestinian will see it as as a solution that might be fair. I mean fair for the Palestinian, especially now I see that only less than 25, or I don't I'm not running after the percent of the lands that they are state for the Palestinian people. So I think the Confederation, there is many models of Confederation, but in this simulation, we really trying to arrive to one during the talks, during the simulation, during our examining the situation, what is really the right thing that we can arrive at, and also see people, convince people as much as during the talks, during the discussions. Can we really arrive to that place when secular, not secular, Palestinian, not Palestinian, every people in this within the 14 million people who live here in this land, and think that maybe really we can arrive to that solution by giving every person, every citizen, every part of it, the privilege, and the how to say that, what they really, how they really saw their life will be while they're preserving their life as they want. And the other hand, they also leaving the others live as they want. So it will be like win-win for every member in this country. Maybe we are speaking, it's too much speaking about 300 members, but this is can be can be discussed later, or it depends how we also divided these 300 members. But I think it will be the best and the most suitable, especially in the lately years that we are not knowing where are we going, not the secular, not the religious people. Everyone has his has their own view. Here we can find all the people, they can find their views submitted in this or attempted in this, implemented in this country, in this simulation, in this simulatory country. Yeah.
So, Warda, let me ask you a question. You live in Jerusalem, correct?
I live in Beit Jala for now. It's the temporary, but yeah, I live in Jerusalem. You can say.
So the Israelis and the Palestinians are very smart, very innovative when it comes to technology, when it comes to
Yes.
science and medicine.
Exactly.
Why are they not innovative when it comes to peace?
You know, I don't think it's you know, you, how to say that, Dora, I have to say that he makes, you know, shiput, you give a judgment. Yeah, yeah, because you know, I live in Beit Jala and I live between people in Palestinian people. And I see that a lot of, you know, in the very little tools that they have, they make a lot of improvement in every, almost in every sector in the country. They don't have money. They don't have tools. They don't have. And Dora lately also go around, you know, the Palestinian cities or places there, in the places that she is allowed also. Sometimes she can be dropped without, you know, legally, you know, because the Israeli are forbidden to go inside the Palestinian cities. But, you know, I don't think that they have, but, you know, it's, you know, they are under occupation. They are not allowed even to have a road under a tunnel, for example, or a bridge. Sometimes when they don't, they want. And between the cities, there is a settlements that they don't have, you know, the continuity between the villages. So I don't think that it is because they don't have, and because they can't have.
Okay, let me read the order. Charles, Shiraz, Dora, Libby, Rasha, and Avi. Charles.
Well, Avram Berg's objections reminded me of Yossi Balin's interview in the film. If you remember how you know, he said, "Look, I don't care. You know, what you're proposing is not going to work," and blah 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 blah. And then a year later, 2 years later, he comes out at you know, the Wilson Center and says, "I've adopted the idea of."
Yes,
you know,
yes.
he seemed to be reaching, you know, saying, okay, there's two ways you can approach this. One is, you know, you can go like the thing where you're trying to build it up from the ground. The other one is JFK says we're going to put a man on the moon, and then you figure out what you have to do in order to get there. And he's been involved in this for so long. It's very difficult for somebody who's so invested like that, I think, to look at somebody else who's proposing something from the outside that maybe, you know, didn't come from his effort.
I agree.
You know, so he's got a personal investment there, but I don't think that he's as opposed to this idea as much as he presented. It's just that he's thinking, you know, that there's only one thing that's going to solve this, and that's to have an egalitarian one-state solution. And he doesn't like the way we're trying to get there because he says you're just creating something else. So, you know, he may come around to support it. I don't know. I'd be, you know, if he's successful in creating an egalitarian one state in Israel and Palestine, you know, before an IPC confederation ever comes into existence, I would say, you know, rah, rah. But I'm just, you know, the thing that he brought up about the tribalism within the Israelis themselves being a major obstacle before you even include the Palestinians, I think the whole basis of this has to be something where people are reminded that their identity is larger than their religious identity.
Could you explain what egalitarian state is?
Well, equal rights. You know, equal rights.
Okay.
So
Joseph, can you please add my name to the list, please, Joseph? Add my name to the list
Oh,
of
yeah,
people.
sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the success for either the IPC or one state or whatever to get the proportion of the people to get to the point where they want to create an IPC, or that they move Israel from its nearly fascist right-wing political position in which it is right now, is there has to be some recognition of the humanity of everybody that goes beyond, okay, you're Jewish, you want to be Jewish, that's great. You want to be Muslim, fine, whatever. You say that that's God, but, ultimately, if you look at the basis of any of those religions, they all said, respect people, respect everybody. That's what they all say. And yet when it gets into actually practicing their religion, comes out the opposite for some reason. So I don't know.
Okay, let's go to Shiraz. I see he's not here. We'll go Shiraz.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for organizing this discussion. I just want to make a point. The person who left, the guest speaker, I think there are a lot of people who are supporting the idea he's suggesting, especially people who are involved in supporting justice for Palestine. But my question is, what Zohar said about his cousins or his nephews. I think the question is, what is the impact of the military training on the mentality or the psyche of people? Because if you are trained for 2 years, in both men and female in military training, you are bound to be very defensive or patriotic to the status quo. So I'm wondering, in terms of Zora, whether he had military training and what did this impact was in terms of creating this right-wing, extra right-wing, super right-wing people. Because there is a book about the education in the school system, right? Where
But I can tell you that Avram BURG is considered to be on the left in Israel, very much on the left.
Yeah, but I also have a question whether he says only 20% are secular. Personally, I think there are more Israelis who are secular, not only through the influence of internet, but also I think the religion is now getting less and less support compared to the generations before.
Shiraz, I agree with you. You're correct. There are more secular Israelis than religious.
Okay, let's go to Dora. Hi, Dora.
Hey guys, thank you. Sorry I was late. I was confused with the time. And thank you for Warda for dragging me for everything that I do. I am Israeli, I'm Sabar, but I'm also American. I lived in the States for a while. I'm volunteering in a nonprofit organization in the West Bank. So I do enter some areas that we're not allowed to. I ate in McDonald's in Hebron 2 months ago. So it was fun to discover that the Palestinian that worked in Israel for many years, and he worked also in McDonald's in Tel Aviv. So he took everything, all of his knowledge and his connection. He actually opened like about 2-3 months ago a McDonald's in Hebron. So if for the American, if you want to experience that, that's quite experience. I'm coming from a background, I do promote federalism. I support it in the marketing, and I tend to see a lot of connection between what you do here with what we try to promote in federalism. So that is wonderful. Now, our work in the ground in the Amutah, the nonprofit, have nothing to do with federalism. We promote shared economy between Palestinian and Israeli. And in Israeli also, we include in settlers. And the reason is that during all this time, the Palestinian people have been hard time. They waiting for a political solution, and they realize that they need to provide income for their families. And therefore, there was platform that were created in certain area, especially area C, that a community like Palestinian villages and settler communities have shared economy. So this is really wonderful to see. So realizing from that the economy have a really big role in promoting the peace and creating a platform for both sides. The hardship that we have in is more with the Israeli when we talk about our work and our efforts is because of fear. People usually don't come to area C, A, and B. Usually it's very stressful for them. Therefore, we're trying to promote it that people are people, and we're trying to promote, especially in area C, the entry of Israeli from the center of Israel, especially to come and see that Palestinians are regular people, they're wonderful, they're not necessarily violent, they're non-violent, and it does help. We do tours. I missed the guest that you have. I missed AVRAHAM BURG, but from my opinion, learning to hear the other person narrative first before I promote mine, and try to connect with the other person narrative that he will feel comfortable in the situation or in the environment during the conversation. People in Israel tend to feel that this Israel have to be the land for the Jewish, especially after the Holocaust, and this is very sensitive to them, thinking in terms that the Palestinian will be a majority. We do try to change, to shift their understanding that we all here together, especially like what the IPC is promoting, that we all people and the land is for everyone. So we need to learn a way to share it. And
could you explain the concept of federalism that you are promoting?
We're looking into, I work for I'm not working, but I'm promoting the federal forum. That's it's a joint of a few organizations that promote federalism and connecting them together to discuss what works.
Under a common government? Are you proposing a common?
Yeah, it's very, there is I would like to talk to you after. There's a lot of similarity in many aspects to what you promote in IPC. Is just that we are putting them like in the state or in Canada or in Switzerland or Italy. We're trying to learn from different countries what works for those countries, and we're bringing it to Israel and says, okay, in Israel we have mechozot. I don't know how to say it in English.
Districts.
And I'm sorry, yeah, and try to build it together. And the thing is that each what we're trying to convey is that each person will keep his identity. If you're Palestinian, you're going to stay Palestinian. If you're Israeli Jewish, you're going to stay Israeli Jewish. We're not going to take that away from you. This is the land of Jewish, but this is also the land of Palestinian, and it's okay. It's fine that it could be both. It could be both home and in a government. But it's very much like the IPC. It's just that it's separated into small canton or areas.
Okay, let me give the order of speaking. It's Libby, Rasha, Avi, Olivia, and Abed Al-Zabed. Libby.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we each share a little shorter so that everybody can be heard. And I just want to make one point, and that is to say that I think BURG was a model of a person with a very closed mind. And I appreciate that these meetings that we have, that the people who come tend to be interested and open to new thinking. And it was very clear to me how we can't reach new creative ideas if we are as closed as he was. I mean, he was, for whatever reason, maybe it's his history, his background, his conditioning, but he was not able to shift enough to even be interested in following the activity. It was like if it wasn't in his world, he wasn't even going to participate. So I think this is a lesson for all of us. If we want anything like this to be successful, we have to really be open to be creative, to think new, and to hear from each other. And when I compare him and think about the other guests who've been on, you can see when they come with a good spirit, it makes a huge difference, and it really helps all of us move forward. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Why do you think he did not want to open to other ideas? What was the reason?
I can't speak for him personally, but I think that people have a life experience that if they are not aware of their conditioning and how their past history and life has shaped their thinking, it's very threatening. He could feel very threatened that this is a new idea that he just can't even imagine could be workable. And as he said, he had all kinds of reasons for it. So I think he's stuck in an old world and an old way of thinking. And it's very, very Israeli. And to hear that he's considered more left than right is pretty scary.
Yeah.
I don't really, I don't think that he is. I think that he doesn't understand what we are going to. I know him personally, and I don't know. I don't think that he is closed mind, because really he is open mind. But maybe he didn't understand the process or what we are going to do in this.
But he was not willing even to sit and listen to us. He just was very,
Yeah,
very
you know,
short
Amnon, he's
fuse.
from the beginning, he was in that situation. Yeah. Yeah, from the beginning, he was in that situation. What are you doing? Are you deciding for the Palestinian or deciding for the Israeli? There is, I think in that point he was, yeah.
You know, this is a very creative process. And I think he's used to probably being more in charge.
Okay, let's go to Russia. Hello. You need to unmute, yeah.
Yes, hello everybody, and nice meeting you all. Joseph, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so sorry I missed the first hour as well, just like Dora and others.
Oh.
Yeah, because of the time changed, and I think
you'll be able to listen to it. We're gonna
the recording.
I'm gonna say, yeah.
Yes, sure. So I'll say just 2 words about myself, and then I'll comment on BURG and maybe the one state, 2 state solutions if possible. So I was born and raised in Israel, in Jad. I'm a Palestinian. I define myself as a Palestinian Israeli citizen. And currently I live in The Hague in the Netherlands. I didn't run away. I'm trying to go back to Israel and do what is necessary to be part of this peace making. Right now I'm here with you and I listen to you. And if you ask me personally, my heart is with a one state solution. I worked for the Palestinian president for a few years in the past as a media consultant. And I worked also in Israel with all sectors, public, governmental, private, and third sector. And I could tell that the 2 state solution is far away from happening in the near future or the far future. That's what I can see myself. But on the other hand, I had the chance to interview many Palestinians from different ages, the 2 genders, and from different areas in the West Bank and Eastern Jerusalem. And most of them, when I say most, vast majority, like more than 85% say they don't believe the two-state solution could happen. But most of them, the same people, want the two-state solution. They want a sovereign state of Palestine. So when I think about myself and us here, I ask myself the question, what right do we have to decide for people who live in the West Bank and East Jerusalem and tell them, no, go for the one-state solution. It's better for you and for your civil rights, for example, rather than let them choose what they want. So I think here is a problem. Like, I think we should ask the Palestinians and the Israelis as well what they want, okay? And if we think, I say that because if we think about a one-state solution, we need to know the reality. The reality is that most people in Israel and Palestine not only don't agree with a one-state solution, they're against it. So it means there is a lot of work to be done in order to bring people to collaborate, to even listen. And that brings me to BURG. I have to tell you that as a Palestinian who lived and raised in Israel, I remember sitting with my dad. We love watching the news and we love politics in Israel, Palestine. And we always said, BURG is one of the people we count on less than one hand who gives us hope in Israel. BURG is one of the people that we believe will be definitely one of those who will bring peace on Israel and Palestine. That's how we loved BURG. So I'm very surprised when I hear that he left the discussion. But I do suggest to go back to him, one of us or two of us, talk to him personally and ask him. I don't think trying to guess the why would work here, as if we go back to him and say, what made you left? Tell us, we want to learn from this. If you left, we need to know the whys or the why in order to be able to proceed with our project. So maybe learn from this rather than, I don't know. I really don't understand why he left, Joseph. It's really weird. So I would really go to Avram and say, listen, just please help us here. It's not, maybe we could accept it, but we would like to understand.
Rasha,
yeah.
Let me tell you my experience, not about BURG, but my general experience with people that are considered to be on the left. In my opinion, they are on the left because they are against the right in their own government, but they are not really in favor of peace. I'm not talking about Avram BURG. I don't know anything about him. But the moment you present a real, what I consider a real peace proposal, they go berserk. They feel that they own the left side and you cannot go more left than they are. The reason is because they're really not really interested in the Palestinian. Again, I'm not talking about Avram BURG, but the left in Israel that I see, they are, in my opinion, they are not really interested in the Palestinian. They're interested in being against the right. And the right is against the left, and that's the end of the discussion. They're really not talking about peace. And I'm trying to invite more people on the left from Israel, and I see the same response all the time. They're not really about peace. That's my observation. I see that all the time. And it could be one of the reasons why BURG left, because he couldn't understand the purpose of this. He couldn't understand. It's about, that could be the reason. I don't know.
Joseph, again, we can assume many things, and we can just ask BURG what made him leave. And I think the generalization about the left could be a bit inaccurate, because even though the left is a minority in Israel, but inside the left, there are many different types of left. For me, as a Palestinian in Israel who collaborates with many left-wing Israelis, I can't sit with all of them, you're right. But there is a type of left-wing which lives for peace. And those people should be part of what you're doing. I believe they should know about this thing happening.
Yeah, but the other question, the other comment I would like to make about your comment about one state. One state is the perfect solution. There's no question about it. But in order to achieve one state, you have to dismantle the Israeli government and the Palestinian government. And that's going to be very difficult, if not impossible. So why does the United States have 50 states and one common government? Because they realize the states will not be willing to be dismantled. The governments will not be willing to dismantle. So we said, okay, we will have a system. You keep your own government, your own governor, your own constitution and parliament, but we'll create a system for everyone to work together. It's a compromise. And what we are offering, the confederation that we're offering, is a compromise. It's not the ideal solution. There's no question about it. But the ideal solution is not achievable. And because it is not achievable, it's not the ideal solution. So you have to reach a compromise. Let's go to.
Yes, thank you for the explanation.
Could you, Joe, could you add me
are you
to the
done?
end?
I'm sorry?
Yes, I just wanted to agree with you on the last comment. Thanks.
Okay, so
This
let's go.
is Nick. Could you just add me to the very end? I'll just be short.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to Avi. Avi Appelstein.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I'm also very sorry that I missed it. I missed the first hour because of the hour change in Europe. And I'm very sorry that I miss AVRAHAM BURG. I can't comment anything to why he left. And I met him only once. We were arguing for about 10 minutes. It's about 10 years ago, and I was arguing that the settlements are the biggest obstacle, and he argued that it's not at all the reality, that it's the biggest obstacle, or the settlements are at all an obstacle. I think meanwhile he changed his view about it, because I read an article about 2 years later that his son was serving in Hebron, and how much it's impacted him. So I think once you are in it, you can develop a different opinion about things. I don't want to comment at all about AVRAHAM BURG.
Was he supportive of his son or against?
Yes, he was supportive. I think he was a bit shocked from the heaviness of this events, and I think but again, I can't speak for him. That's the question I would like to ask him today, if I would have met him, if he changed his mind since the last 10 years. and I wouldn't put him in any left or right wing. It's a very complex. Anyway, his history is very complex. You have to know his father was already a parliament member, and it's a complexity. I'm a psychotherapist in my profession, and I'm loving trying to solving complexities. I know that most of the time it doesn't work. You can't solve them. You can just pave a way for them.
What is your
Personally,
profession?
sorry?
What is your profession?
Psychotherapist.
Okay.
Yeah. Body-oriented psychotherapy. And what I want, I'm very much, because some were talking about the solutions, I'm also, I can say even working out for ideas for one-state solution, but not in the mean that it will become suddenly a democratic, non-religious one state. That's an illusion. That's very nice in dreamland, but something that it's a mixture in between what the IPC suggests and other possibilities. I'm sure that if I know Varda from some conference like that by Zoom, and I'm sure that Varda and I could make a peace. We could make already a long time an agreement. I think after the first meeting, we would find a compromise that we all can live with it, and we all can live with it good. And that's the basic idea, because I think two-state solution, I think it's not viable. I don't think it's possible to create it in a way that it's really two different states that doesn't mingle with each other. And I think the IPC maybe for now is also an illusion, but I think some kind of a compromise that includes all three models, that Palestinians have their sovereignty, but still they don't, it's not like a state like every other state that they can create an army or something like that, and they still have a freedom of movement, and all of these things are much more just for all the people there, and less threatening once the radicals are a bit losing their fire, because everybody is satisfied. Because when everybody is satisfied, you don't get any more the radicals.
You like my model, Avi?
I like your model very much. I have some amendments for that. I mean, I'm radical than you even in that, in the one-state solution. But we will work on it, Varda.
Okay.
So that's actually all. And one for my person, I left Israel in 1985 because I refused serving. I refused serving at that time in Lebanon. I refused serving in the West Bank, where my unit went. And I think it's not the best. It's not a model. It's not the best way to do. It's one way to do things to come to a change. Because and I think if there will be more people who will, not question of going out of the box, but being more ready to sacrifice something from their own convenience for the general purpose, then we are very, very much further on this possibility of creating peace. And peace is good for everybody, no question about it. So that was, thanks.
Joseph, you're muted, so if you're calling on people, they can't hear you.
Sorry, Olivia.
Oh, yes. Hello, Joseph. And I'm sorry that you've had that disappointment. It's not nice as a host to get that sort of shock. I like being after, is his name Avi or Avi? Because his sagesse comforts me. So so it's nice to follow as a speaker, the previous speaker. And I take advantage to say hello to Varda, because we lost contact. So hello, Varda, and hello, Avi. Right, now just let me say, Joseph.
Hi,
hello, so nice to see you. I'll contact you soon. Just let me say what I think about Mr. AVRAHAM BURG. I'm familiar with his work, and everything that Mr. BURG, his idea for Palestine, for Israel-Palestine, coincides exactly with yours, exactly. A space between the river and the sea where justice prevails, where everybody has equal rights, and everything that you say is exactly what he aspires to. And he explains himself very well in his articles, his books, and his conferences. He gives lots of conferences, and they're very interesting. So I can understand the Palestinian lady that lives in The Hague, when she spoke about politics with her dad in the past. They both said, listen, she said, listen, Dad, the people that we can count on to create justice in this land, we can, there are just 5 of them, and BURG is one of them. So, so I think, so of course, except Joseph, the means that you use are different to Mr. BURG. Mr. BURG doesn't know how he's going to achieve the end. Your aspirations, the end is the same. If you get me, I'm not very good at expressing myself. You're making it very clear. It's the means that are different. You have specific means, and yes, they're a little bit utopic. Everybody says that, but the other speakers that you had said, yes, it's utopic. It's a little bit surreal, but it's wonderful. Keep at it. Keep talking. Keep talking. So that is what I stress. What AVRAHAM BURG wants is what you want. So I have more simple explanations, though obviously we have to ask him. Dear Mr. BURG, why did you up and leave? I didn't even hear you. I was looking forward to listening to you. Me, Olivia, I was looking forward to it. So I'm so sorry. So only he can say that. I mean, even the logo for his association is the same as yours. It's a dove. It's a dove. I thought, gosh, is that the IPC? No, it's Mr. BURG. Could it be just, an ego problem? Well, I can't get involved with that at all. Could it be that he just got out of the wrong side of the bed, just tired, or didn't understand? So there's something very simple. He needed a good, strong cup of tea made by myself, just to be able to sort of relax and think about it. That's all, something very simple, I think, because what he wants is what you want. Now, I'd like to say just a quick something to the Palestinian lady. She might agree that one of the problems to the Palestinian lady that works in The Hague. So she has a perspective from a distance, her perception from a distance. Distance sharpens one's perception and time, like with the Israeli gentleman that was with us, who was very, very interesting, and etc., etc. She might, yes,
Olivia,
yes.
I left to the Netherlands only last year. I lived
but even
40 years in Israel.
Yes, but even when you were in Israel, you had a sharp perception because you were mixing with people from all different milieus, because of your level of education and et cetera, and contacts. What you said about your past means that you were meeting people, all sorts of people. You might agree that one of the problems now that's come to the forefront within the Palestinian community is that until now, they considered they had to fight the occupation. Yes, sure, the occupations was the elephant in the room. They had that, it's just end the occupation. Okay, I think now they're realizing what they've always realized, that they also have to oppose and object to oppression within their own community, their own leaders. Now, this came to a head when Mahmoud Abbas called off the elections, okay? Because I think he foresaw that perhaps he wasn't going to win them, okay? That was when was it? It was not a long time ago, okay? Now, one of the candidates that may have got more votes than he did was somebody that dissented. Now, was his dissent accepted by the Palestinian Authority, by the authorities in Palestine? No, it wasn't. And he was beaten up in a police station, lost his life, and that's terrible. That brought Palestinians out onto the street. I'm sorry, what's your name? I like to call you by your name. The lady I'm speaking to?
Russia.
What is your name?
My name is Rasha.
Russia, right. Do you agree with me, Russia, that brought things to a head and Palestinians decided, okay, they came out onto the streets and demonstrated against the fact that dissent was not accepted. And in a pretty brutal way, this young man lost his life, was apparently, so I read, beaten up by his own people, so to speak. And so Palestinians demonstrated in favor of being able to speak their minds and being able to object to oppression, Palestinian oppression. So I think things changed, okay? And it's a very, very complex situation, very, very difficult. And I think also that it was convenient for Israel to let the crime, in the Arab towns, they have become crime-ridden. Gangs have taken over. Now, is that just handy on the part of the Israeli authorities? Oh, let the crime gangs run the show. Well, that's awful. That is unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. If crime exists, you fight it. And if it's in Israel, the Israeli police has to fight it. They didn't. And crime has become a serious issue in Arab towns in Israel. Okay? Now, I also think perhaps over the years, now you have to take what I say with a pinch of salt, because I'm in Europe. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Arab. I'm nothing. I'm non-religious. I'm just peeping in at you with great concern, because Israel has gone very right-wing. That concerns me as a humanist, as someone who's in favor of freedom for Palestinians, justice for Palestinians, and for Israelis, of course, equality. Okay, what I did see over recent years was it seemed as though the local governments, your Palestinian governments, both Hamas and the PA, were some kind of subcontractors for Israeli security. Now, when I mentioned this to an Israeli, an Arab journalist that was with us last time, a very, very interesting, lovely, lovely man, he said, I said something about Hamas, and he said, no, you have to understand that in Hamas, there were lots of different factions. Yes, I'm aware there are PLO factions and quite moderate factions, as well as the Islamic State fact. We know that, yes. What I was saying was that I think they've done the dirty work for Israel. So I think, you know, it's very complex. There has to be one leadership. I'm sure you would agree there. Has to be one leadership. And we hope for the best. The solution is not easy. And the one leadership that unites. I think it would be good to have one leadership that unites the West Bank Palestinians, the Gaza Palestinians, the East Jerusalem Palestinians, the Israeli Arabs, the Israeli Palestinians, and the diaspora Palestinians. That would be my ideal leadership. Do you agree? I won't talk too long because I want to hear my fellow participants. Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. I would like to address that issue that you said, utopic. People keep saying it's utopic, but after they say the word utopic, they don't say why it's utopic. It just, you know, I hear the word naive and utopic all the time, but no explanation for those terms. But let's go.
I was just repeating what the other guests have said, Joseph. I wasn't saying what I said.
Okay.
I was saying other guests have used that adjective. That's all, Joseph. Thank you. I want to hear my fellow participants.
Okay, let's go. So let me read the Abid is next, Nick, and then Muhammad Awad. Abid.
Yeah, I will not take too much long because Olivia has maybe covered most of what I was going to say about you know, why Mr. BURG walked away on us, because I think, like, you know, first he wasn't, like, you know, vague about it. He said, like, you know, he doesn't believe in what we're doing here. He said it's very sort of like, you know.
Abid, can you look at the camera because we don't see you that well?
Well, I think I tried to you know I have the camera. Yes.
Yeah, but that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, I think. Even if he was, I mean, I think with the limited time Mr. BURG, you know, stayed with us, he has left some kind of, like, you know, a topic for us to talk about. Now, I mean, and it's also like very informative what he has, like, you know, what he did. and so that to open our eyes to what are the obstacles we're going to face, so like selling this project to the people there, like, both of the Palestinians and also Israelis. Now here is Mr. Borg, who's quote unquote a leftist, and normally our perception of leftists they are like, sort of like pro peace, which is from the history of the left wing and the leftist government. If we call like the labor governments are leftist, I don't think it's like, too much. We haven't really seen too much peace from that, those governments. Anyways, I am Palestinian. I spent the first maybe 20 years of my life in a refugee camp in the West Bank, and I've left since maybe 40 years ago. Anyways, I couldn't go. I've lost my right of abode there because I did not go back within 5 years. Anyways, that's another thing. Now, I think like Mr. Borg has opened my eyes that yes, what we are doing is not going to be what we believe in is not going to be easy to pursue. I think, and also I agree with Olivia when she said, like, Mr. Borg in one of his statements, he said he like worked for 30 years for a two-state solution, but then he realized that it's not going to work, and then he is now thinking of a one-state solution. However, like, which is really what we're trying to do here. It's like, okay, whether one government, two states, or three states, but and so like, this federation, federal government we're propagating here. It's really like, at the end of the day, would probably may lead to one state, one like, to one government. I think Mr. Borg left. Sort of like probably he was, I think, surprised of that there is something, or there is something that's working on what he is conceiving as a one state. I don't think we are, different. I think we have a clear roadmap. Then he is now realizing that this is going to be the right solution, or like a one state. But he's also, at the same time, he has put forward to us all these obstacles which are going to be faced by whoever is sort of like, pursuing that path. That path. So that's what I was going to, But I think I think I'm very happy. Like, he was here for that, short time at least. Like, I find it just like an mind-opening kind of like, response. I mean, again, when from one stage of my life, I was doing some kind of research, and then I came across something called protracted conflicts, and I think the Israeli-Palestinian conflict falls within that definition, which means that it's not the main obstacle to sort of like solving this conflict is there are people at both sides who are benefiting from the status quo of the continuity of this, so they perpetuate. I don't know if Mr. Borg will fall that, in that category or not, but I think it's, what we're trying to do here, Joseph, is not, it's, well, what we're trying to do is very commendable, but I think it's that's not an easy sort of things. That's why some people call it the utopia, because it's kind of like, they think it's way, far-fetched, as what Mr. Borg said. I don't want to take too much any more of your time, and I will leave I will just stop here and let other people, speak up their mind.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
The event that took place today with Mr. Berg, from your personal perspective, from your personal perspective, not generally, your perspective, did it elevate or did it detract from your belief in a common confederation?
No, I think it's sort of like giving me, personally, it's giving me more sort of like hope that this is the, you know, the most feasible solution, and given the the situation. And here is someone who has, like, you know, been there when the Israeli government in very high places, and he realizes that is the way. I mean, you know, different strategy, or different sort of like, you know, no, the different kind of like process, but the thing at the end is, like, you know, the same thing. You know, it's one state, one government. Whether it happens, you know, we have a confederation, federation, or you know, whatever other means. No, but I personally, this is like, you know, I reinforced my sort of like my belief in what we're doing here.
Thank you. Let's go to Nick Alice.
Okay, I would like to try to make it short, if I may, my comments. One, I want to say that I am so impressed by so many of the members that have participated in this discussion who are Palestinian or Israeli and have lived there. I really like that. I really liked the woman, I'm blanking on her name, who volunteers and goes into the West Bank. And I was so impressed and so much believe in her comments that you have to listen and try to understand the other person instead of categorizing them one way or the other. Also, Joe, I want to say again, I know you are so much into the IPC and are, in my opinion, the way you sound, sometimes dogmatic, but I congratulate you on being willing to invite people like Mr. Berg that may not agree with you. Segway, I remember, was it 10 or 15 years ago, you used to put on presentations at UCLA and stuff where you weren't focusing on IPC. You were basically inviting these very interesting people to explain what their views were. And I understand now you are constrained because you want to focus on the IPC. You don't want to invite these guys and have them, you know, turn the program over them to explain their views, which might be divergent. That's a pressure on you. I understand. Nevertheless, I congratulate you and hope you will continue that. That segues into my second point, which is my comment on Mr. Berg. You know, it's got nothing to do with whether I agree with him or not agree with him. He's expressing his opinion. He's experienced. He's, you know, an intellectual in a way and an activist in a way, and has written a lot, which I have not read. But, you know, if he were, some people have said, well, why didn't he say why he was opposed? Well, he did say it, but he was told by you, which I understand and I don't criticize it, told by you that the thing is we want questions, not comments. So he misunderstood that a little bit. Then when I asked him to expand a bit, he expanded a bit, but he still understood that this is a meeting about IPC. It's not a meeting about his views. So if we had turned the program over to him for a half an hour, I'm sure we would have learned a lot more detail. I feel he did explain very capsulized fashion why he opposed it. And I do not think it's a good idea to immediately think because he's against the IPC that means something is wrong with him, or he's inflexible, or he hasn't opened his eyes, or he's too old, or whatever. He is what he is. We don't have to accept it. We don't have to reject everything. Maybe if we let it simmer in our minds over the months, maybe it will add some wisdom to what everybody's doing. That's all.
No, I agree with you, because I had this experience with Noam Chomsky, where I was a little tough with him. And then when I heard the simulation later on, I heard different things than what I heard at the time. And I reached out to him, and he was very generous, and we exchanged very nice emails, and he's coming again on on November 14th. So I agree with you.
Yeah. It's
Okay, so let's go to Muhammad Awad.
Muhammad. Yeah, Ustaz
Muhammad
Muhammad.
is mute.
Muhammad, you need to unmute yourself. Muhammad Awad.
Yeah,
Yes.
so good evening, and I enjoy the latest conservation. So quick for some point, but first of all, maybe I need to introduce myself. And I'm Muhammad Awad, originally from Hebron, which now I'm in Hebron. I spent the last 4 years in Europe, in Germany, as headquarter. I was working with some German organization. Moving back to Palestine, I work in some Palestinian university and some NGO in the field. So I agree with some comment about the left parties in Israel or in West Bank. They are believing the left because they want to be against the government. So even I'm from the left party, but I was realized in the last 3 or 2 years that a new generation of the Palestinians who live in West Bank are starting unbelief of the left strategy. So I think all the left parties in the Palestinian territories, which I'm speaking about West Bank, I don't have that experience in Gaza, but about the West Bank, the new generation of the youth in West Bank, they don't trust about the work and the mission of the left parties in the West Bank. So if we lose our interest in the left, which we at least build some aspect that they can push the peace processes. And of course, we don't trust the right wings. So how we can push the peace processes ongoing? This is my first question. My second question about the 2 and 1 state solution. I don't believe that we can achieve the 1 state solution, neither the 2 state solution. It's just, I realized that we can speak, in the air. From the reality, what's going on the ground, we were not going to 2 state solution. We're not going to 1 state solution. So we need really to rethink again about what is the best choices for the next generation from the Israeli and the Palestinians. And my third comment about, I would thank all the people who are participate, but how we can achieve that, how we can convince the new generation of the Palestinian and Israeli about the peace processes after maybe 10 or 20 years of conflict and what's going on. Mentioned that, from my opinion, I think the best solution of the conflict will be from the economic side, not from the political side. The people in West Bank nowadays, I think they are under the pressure from the economic and the financial aspects. I think also the Israeli and the Jewish who are live in Israel in the same. So I think that the best solution will be as coming from the economic side, not from the political side. And thank you for giving me the time to participate.
Oh, thank you. So let me just have some concluding remarks. We've been here more than 2 hours. So,
Joseph, can I ask a quick question to Muhammad?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Muhammad, thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that. In speaking with Palestinians off the record and privately, a lot of them expressed the desire to accept Israel and the Jewish people as a fact, and to live in peace with Israel. But publicly, the opinion is different. from your experience in the towns like Ramallah, Hebron, and other areas, speaking with Palestinians there, what is your opinion? What is your feeling? Are they really interested in living side by side in peace with Israel and forget about all the notions of throwing Israel to the sea? What do you feel? What is your impression from them?
I will answer you. For example, I was leading one research with American professors in the West Bank about the political and economic aspect in West Bank. This is 1 year ago. I'm sure that the statistic will be maybe, and the research will be realized soon. And I'm sure that 99% of the Palestinians who live in West Bank, I'm talking about West Bank, I don't have experience in Gaza, they are willing to the peace, and they are willing to live together with the Israeli. And if you mentioned in the last 5 years how many attacks happens from the Palestinian side against the Israeli, it's approach zero. The all attacks happens in some checkpoints. It's because of reaction of some event. It's not from religious or politics reasons, and they not exceeds maybe 5 or 6 cases in the last 5 years, which will be happen in any country. It will be happen in US or in Europe. So that's my answer. The new generation really want the peace. The new generation really want to enhance their life. They want to at least have access to the movement, freedom of the movement. But the question is still how we can achieve that. So if the Palestinian generation don't trust of the political parties, don't trust the Palestinian government, and the other side suffer from the occupation, so what is the solution?
Okay, but so you think there is hope, right? And they're willing to sit down and look for a solution?
They want, but sit with whom and how? This is the question that I mainly heard it many times each day. Sit with whom and how? That's the main question.
Sits together with all the parties involved. The Israelis and Palestinians sit together at the same table and discuss it, in a civilized manner.
If the Palestinian don't trust the Palestinian parties, how the Palestinian new generation will sit first with the Palestinian parties, then sit with the Israeli parties? That's an important question.
You're absolutely right. There is also division among Israelis. You're absolutely right. It's the same.
It's not just about the divisions. It's about the Palestinian lose its trust 100% of all the Palestinian wings from the right to the left. I'm sure, not just the leadership, even I'm sure that I know at least 1,000 of the Palestinians from the left parties. Every day I listen to their speech. We lose the trust of our, not just readers, of our parties. And I'm sure that if there is an event now happening to the left in West Bank, they will not collect 50 people to participate in that. This is why I mentioned the hope just in the economic solution. Otherwise, it's just a speech in the air.
Yeah, Muhammad,
I can add to
Muhammad.
I can add to Muhammad. There was a research from Marcus Badil that give us 93% of the young people. They are with the one country solution, and they explain that exactly what Muhammad said, that they more trust the people to take the the steering and to just make another leaders and more new leaders from the youth and trying to communicate with each other. Yeah.
That's
Vada,
the,
you know, Vada, sorry, that when
yeah.
when you talk about one state solution, we all talking about different things. Also
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
The,
you know,
the
one state solution, it can be also the model that I suggested, because it gives also, you know, the Israeli the borders. Even we can use plus and minus the 67 borders, and Israel will keep its uniqueness, and Palestine will keep its uniqueness, but together they will control the both countries with the supreme parliament and constitution and everything, and using Joseph's model also of having you know, in every place, depending on the people there, and depending on everything, how we can make it a good parliament, or how to say this, supreme parliament for both countries, and trying to make it really very conjugated to each other, working together in every field, education, financially, yeah,
maybe
politically, everything.
let me maybe explain my idea or my thought, because I'm coming from ground. I don't think that one state solution by the model that you are suggesting, Verda, will work. Absolutely, I'm against it of that, because the Palestinian, they are not ready to accept the Israeli to be in their parliament. Other sides, the Israeli will not accept the Palestinian, and we witness what's going on with even the Arab parliament, who are having the Israeli citizen, which is, I think, it's just like dreams. The only path, I think, for the ending the conflict and stopping the violence and having, is just going on by third party, and making pressure against the Palestinian and the Israeli to at least to make sure about the borders, the control, and maybe something like semi-state for the Palestinians and semi-state for the Israeli. Otherwise, there's no solution, and is by promoting also the economic solution. From the politics, I get off. I don't think that the politics will make any progress toward the peace.
All right, let me have.
And I want just to add it, last point regarding what's going on in the Palestinian side. The last research, which I was participating in one of them, approximately 80% of the Palestinian lost hope from the Palestinian NGO. I want to mention that. And that's also an addition remark to say that how is the Palestinian lost their, not just their belief, but also lost their hope that something will be changed on at least on the coming 10 years.
Okay, let me have make concluding remarks. We believe that it is possible to have a common election. You know, we used to, before there was a paper, people voted with rocks, and then came paper, and they voted with paper. Now we have the internet, and so we can vote through the internet. And the internet gives us a lot more flexibility and a lot more ability to expand democracy. So it is possible to create a common government through a common election using the internet. And what we need is grassroots financial support. I would like to thank Nick Alice, who is a very strong supporter financially of the IPC. We need to educate and recruit candidates for parliament and president. And then we need to share this vision on social media and to continue to participate in future simulation. And we need media to cover this, because the media is very, very single-minded that the only solution is a two-state solution. There is never a discussion in the media about other possibilities. for peace. So we need to try to force or create a situation where the media will be compelled to discuss about other solutions. So we've been almost 2.5 hours. I want to thank all of you for participating. The next one is on November 14 with Noam Chomsky, and I hope to see all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.